Hi everybody, it's Andrea Villeneuve here. I'm really excited for today's recipe. Today's recipe is the cheeseburger frittata. So this is a fantastic recipe, very rich in protein, quite a few eggs in it, obviously a frittata, mostly eggs, with all of that delicious cheeseburger flavor from the beef, the cheese, and some veggies as well. So let's jump right in and get going on this. I'm just gonna, I have my cast iron skillet right here. I'm just sort of heating it up now to get it ready for when the beef goes in. You'll notice that the handle here is, it doesn't have any plastic on it or anything. It is oven safe as well because that's an important part of this recipe right here. Okay, so while that's heating up, just want to go over a few things. First of all, I want you guys to wash your hands, warm water and soap, 20 seconds. About how long it takes to go through singing happy birthday. It's very common. Make sure you get your fingernails in between your fingers, everything nice and clean. If you have long hair, make sure to put it up. And also, if you are worried about getting anything on your clothes, please wear an apron. Okay, so this seems like it's warming up well. So I'll point you guys this way. Just gonna put a little bit of oil in here. There we go. And we will add our nice lean ground beef. You get that nice sizzle going right away. Just beautiful. And we're gonna use the back of a wooden spoon to break it apart, okay? You can already see that basically with a cast iron skillet, you get a really nice browning pretty quickly. So we're just aiming to brown everything up, so no pink remaining. And you're aiming for a final temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius. Okay, so, and I know that not a lot of people necessarily know this, but if you are looking at Health Canada and you're looking at all these different kinds of meat and it says extra lean, or regular, and not a lot of people know this, but all ground meats have the same maximum fat content as defined by Health Canada, or sorry, by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So that means that no matter what, if you're buying lean ground turkey or lean ground beef, they both have the exact same maximum fat content. So just something for you guys to know at home. This is looking fantastic. It's almost all browned up. So what I'm actually gonna do is the recipe, looking over at it for salt and pepper, it calls for to use half of the salt and half of the pepper right away to flavor the beef. So make sure you reserve half of each, okay? There we go. And I'll just stir that all up. This should take about 8 minutes or so to make it fully brown. To just cook it all up here. Just stirring it. I'll give you guys another sneak peek at it. It looks so good. It smells so good already. Nothing too crazy going on. You can kind of get an idea. Yum, look at that. Okay, so moving on into the next step, I'm going to show you guys the eggs. You can see here I have some white and brown eggs. And just so you guys know, there is no nutritional difference between white and brown eggs. I know a lot of people happen to think that brown eggs are healthier, but that's not actually the case. It just happens that they came from a brown hen. Okay, so we have our bowl. And I'm just gonna So basically this mixture that we're going to do here is really nice to know, a really good food skill to know, because basically all we're doing is we're taking these eggs and cracking them in here. And then we're just going to scramble them up. Oop, I got a little bit of shell in there. And then we just scramble them up. And this is also how you would happen to make scrambled eggs as well. So this same mixture is how you make scrambled eggs. So it is kind of a multiple skills in one kind of a situation. And just another hint, when you are cracking eggs, you do want to make sure that you are hitting it on a flat surface, not on a corner. If you do tap your eggs on the corner, it's more likely that you will get shell mixed in with the interior of the egg. So it is better to go on a flat surface. Also, if it is your first time kind of cracking eggs, what I want you to do is crack them into a small bowl first, and that'll help make sure that you don't get shells throughout the huge bowl of eggs. That way you can have a little bowl, crack one in, and then add it once you know that the egg is okay. Okay, so I'm just going to rinse off my hands. Here we go. Give the beef a quick stir. Here we go. Make sure that is really coming along. The pink is almost fully gone here. So now that we have all of our eggs cracked, we're just going to add in a little bit more flavoring here. So what I have is 2 tablespoons of milk, and that was 8 eggs that we cracked into this bowl. There we go. It kind of makes the mixture a little creamier. And this is onion powder that we have right here. A little bit of onion powder going in. And the remainder of the salt, as well as the remainder of the pepper. Okay? And then you're just going to take a whisk and whisk it all together until it's well combined, okay? You want to make sure that you crack all of those yolks so that everything is well combined. You can see you need a pretty big bowl for this, just because it can get messy if you don't have a big enough bowl here. You need enough room to make sure that everything's kind of moving around. Okay, I'm gonna have to whisk this a little more. Whoop! Yep, see, a little messy there. Okay, so what I want to do quickly is I want to show you guys, so the beef is done. Scraping the bottom here. And then I'll just set the egg aside for a quick sec. Clean off this board. There we go. And I'm just going to drain the beef, okay? So there's a little bit of, I'll actually grab an oven mitt just in case the pan is really hot. And then I have here, and I'm just going to strain it in case there's any extra fat. We don't want too much fat into this frittata, just because it can influence how everything sets on the eggs. Okay? So we put everything out and drain it, and we're just going to set aside the beef for now. There we go. But you can see it's all nicely browned. Everything's looking good. There we go. So we'll just set that aside for now. Okay. So I've kind of just been mixing up the eggs, whisking them up here. I'm just going to refer back to the recipe, which I always recommend. Okay. So it does tell you to, okay, so then the next step that we're going to do is we are going to put the beef back in the pan. And we are going to start adding in some of our veggies, okay? So one of the first veggies that we're gonna add in, sorry, this is taking a little bit. It's a lot of eggs to get through. 8 eggs is a lot of eggs to get through. There we go. You can see it has a really nice color. It's all yellow and it's getting really well mixed at this stage. Okay, so I'll set that aside. I think that's pretty well whisked at this point. And now we're gonna, so basically turn this over to about medium heat. And now we are going to put the beef back into the pan. You can see that some of the fat and juices did come off. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is have a little bit of red onion in this. So all you really have to do here, I already made a flat surface for us to cut on with the onion. And it calls for 1 small red onion. I did not have a small onion. So right now we're working with about a medium-sized onion, let's say. Okay, and it just calls for some strips. So what I'm gonna do is the claw, as always. And I don't want it to be too long, so I'm gonna just cut that down into 3. And then I'm gonna just cut little strips like this. There we go. All looks good. And I would say that that's probably about the size of a small onion. So we'll take all of these and we'll put them into the pan with the beef. Here we go. So that it can cook down a little bit. You just want it to kind of not be quite as, you want to just tenderize them a bit so that when we do get the frittata done, you're not biting into raw onion, okay? This also adds such a beautiful color to the frittata when it is done, because every filling gives an opportunity for you to just add in a little more flavor. And also onions are commonly used either as a topping for burgers, so it really plays into that cheeseburger flavor, or onions are usually actually mixed in directly with the burger patty. That's very common as well. Okay, so next what I'm gonna cut up to add in here, I have a cup of spinach that I just wanna kinda slice up. So it's the spinach is basically a more nutritious way to add lettuce basically on top of your burger. So this is a little bit of a heartier green. And since we are cooking it, so this is gonna sort of imitate that fresh lettuce flavor when you put that on top of your burger at home. And basically we're just gonna cook this down for about 2 minutes because you want the spinach to kind of wilt and just for the, sorry, for the onions to soften is really the goal. Okay, and as I mentioned before, so we did in fact drain the beef just because of we wanted to make sure that there's not too much extra liquid that will make it so that the egg doesn't set properly. So what I want to do now is we're going to add some tomato, also another very common ingredient to put on. So yes, a tomato is a very common ingredient to put on a cheeseburger. And normally I just cut up a tomato, easy peasy, because I don't really want to bother with de-seeding it. I feel like most recipes that call to de-seed a tomato, you don't really need to do that. But this is one exception to that rule. And the reason why you need to de-seed the tomato is so that not a whole bunch of water comes and sits at the top of your frittata, okay? So I'll kind of show you guys. We're just going to take our tomato, and I'm going to just, you can already see all of the seeds. I'm just going to simply take a spoon and kind of scoop them out. Just that easy. Nothing too complicated, and then you're left with the very fleshy outside. So it's not too bad at all. Whoop. Good way to do this. There we go. Gotta make sure we get both sides. And it's pretty easy that way. Okay, and so with this tomato, I'm just gonna dice it up, but you can see all the seeds are removed, and you can see how watery that is. But usually if you're making something, you don't really have to, like if you're making something, you don't usually have to de-seed it at all. Okay, so now you can use your chef's knife, or you can use your paring knife, whichever you prefer. I'll just use the paring knife here. Remember, you're using the claw. We're just cutting this now to a very small dice to add in, and you'll get a little bite of tomato, which will make you feel even more so like you're eating a real cheeseburger with this frittata. There we go. Also with tomatoes, some people find it easier to use knives with serrated edges. So you could do a similar thing that I'm doing here, but use a serrated edge if you felt like you needed to. Because I have very sharp knives that will go through the skin of a tomato, but not everybody does. So if you don't have a sharp knife, I would recommend using a serrated knife to cut up your tomatoes, okay? Okay, so there we go. Tomatoes are cut up nice and small. So I will just add these over to the pan. There we go. And you can just see all of the beautiful colors at this stage. Mixing the tomatoes in. You can see though there's beautiful purple, green, and now we have the red going in as well. So very beautiful. Here we go. A little more tomatoes. Okay. Okay, so while those tomatoes are cooking away just a little bit, I'm going to bring over and just whisk up our egg mixture a little bit more since it did sit for a bit. Our heat has now been turned down to low. So when it comes to cooking eggs, especially such a large quantity of eggs, you really want to make sure that it's on low, because otherwise the bottom will burn where the top can still be raw. So you want to make sure that you're cooking on lower heat, okay? There we go. We added the egg. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of take a fork and I'm going to kind of lift ingredients up as I work away. Here you guys can see it. And that just allows it so that the egg mixture, we know that it can kind of just basically get to the bottom. There we go. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So this is on low heat and it's just cooking away. So we say cook until the bottom is set, and that'll be about 5 minutes. And then we're just gonna pop it into the oven under a, well, sprinkle it with cheese, pop it in the broiler for about 2 minutes, and that'll allow everything to kind of puff up. But I'll show you what I mean when as it sets. There we go. Okay, so my hands are a little messy, so I'm just gonna quickly go and wash them. You can kind of see it's kind of like simmering away. You can see it's steaming, but yeah, this is kind of what you want. We're just sitting here and I'm gonna wait for it to basically solidify a little bit. Okay, and I did just want to go back for a minute to talk about, so if you are looking for a knife with a serrated edge, this is what it looks like. See how it has these little teeth? That is a serrated edge knife, okay? And that is what I would recommend for cutting a tomato if you don't have sharp enough knives to get through. There we go. And as this is cooking away, I'm gonna just show you guys. Actually, I'm gonna turn on my oven here. Ooh, lower oven, broil, on high. Okay, start. So you guys can already kind of see that this is solidifying, which I really like to show you guys is that if you take a good look around the edges, you can already see that they're not as runny. The center is still pretty runny, but the edges are kind of just getting a little more solid, which is really nice. Just so you know, so this is how you make a frittata. You basically don't want to touch it after you've kind of, the start we kind of moved the ingredients up to the top a bit. If you were going to do a scrambled egg, what I would do is I would go in with the spoon and I would stir it every so often, and that would just give you some of these soft curds that is basically making a scrambled egg right there. Also, if you guys were going to be making something similar in terms of if you were going to be making, what am I thinking? An omelet, for example. It would be very similar. You would just be doing a really thin layer of egg, and then you would be adding the toppings on top and then rolling that up. And that's how you do an omelet. So yeah, all of these things. Okay, so this is just cooking away. And it's getting pretty close, actually, to where it needs to be. Just kind of, you can tell the egg is cooking. I'm gonna kind of put quite a few ingredients in the center for this one, because it's kind of, the center is rising a bit. It smells fantastic. But there you go. We're pretty much there, I would say, where we'll be able to put it in the oven. So there we go. So next steps is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna, oops, sorry, I'm actually gonna take our shredded cheddar cheese and sprinkle this on top. And I'm just gonna toss this in the oven to broil for about 2 minutes. There we go. And you'll know it's done when there's no real liquid remaining, okay? Here we go. Yum! Okay, so we're just getting ready to take the frittata out of the oven. So I have something here just to work. It's kind of a hot pad. I'm just gonna grab it out. So we'll just turn that off. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. I don't know if you guys can see that. But there we go. We have a beautiful frittata. I'll just lift it up so that you guys can see it. That is our cheeseburger frittata. Looks super tasty. And we're just gonna, basically what you do at this point is you just cut it into wedges to serve. And you serve it with ketchup for and you serve it with ketchup for serving. And that's it. That's your delicious cheeseburger frittata that you have right there.